Who should join Alex Albon at Williams for 2023? So with Nicholas Latifi leaving at the end of the season and Williams reserve driver Nick De Vries getting poached by AlphaTauri after scoring some great points in Monza when he replaced Alex Albon, Williams have left a little bit empty-handed on who they're going to replace Alex Albon with for the 2023 season. Now, it looks like the main choice currently is their reserve driver Logan Sargent. Now, he's a Williams Academy driver, he's a world champion in karting, and he's actually won a race in every category that he's ever raced in. Now, he had a few budget problems a few years ago in F3, but he managed to keep a place and he's currently third in F2 and performing extremely well. And that is sort of where he's caught the attention from Williams team principal Jost. And I think he wants to sort of try get him in a bit early potentially if he can have the super license points, which we will dive into. So talking of super license points, you need 40 to race in Formula 1 and Logan Sargent currently has 30. Now these carry over 3 seasons and you can collect them from Formula 3, Formula 2 and other series like IndyCar for example. Now as they carry over 3 seasons, next season Logan would technically lose his season 3 years ago's points. So that was 3 points he got in his first season, so he'd only be on 27. Now he's currently third in Formula 2, and if he finished 5th, he would get 20 points, which would actually put him at 47, so he would have enough to race in Formula 1 next season. So it's looking very likely that he'll have enough points, and I think this is why Williams are holding out. I don't think they expected him to have this much, but I think he's going to. Now another option, which sort of I don't think is going to happen, but it's another sort of safe bet, is if he finished in 6th place, he would actually get 10 points, which would obviously put him at 37, which wouldn't be enough. But then if he has no penalty points for like dangerous driving, for example, you get an extra 2. So if you finish in 6th place and had no penalty points, you'd get an extra 12, which will put him at 39, so he'd be 1 short of super license points for racing in Formula 1. Now a place where he could get this 1 point would be for doing an FP1 session, which he's going to be doing in Kota this weekend, so that would actually put him at the 40. So I think it's very likely he's going to get to this number this season, and I think this is why Williams are holding out for him. So having a quick look at his racing history, 2019 he finished 3rd in Formula 3, he finished again 3rd in Formula 3 in 2020, and then dropping down to 7th in the following year, but he did have some budget problems and had to move to a lesser team. Now this year, 2020, he's currently 3rd in F2, and in 2020 he actually was extremely close to beating Oscar Piastri, who's obviously the sort of the highest regarded rookie currently, and I think a lot of teams would have taken him. So if he can match that sort of level, I think it shows he's got a lot of potential. Now, yeah, he was 4 points off Oscar Piastri's finishing points in F3 in 2020, so he's clearly got the talent. Now, looking at his races this season, he's won the Great Britain feature race, and he also won the Austria feature race, and I think he got pole position in France, but I think he had some gearbox problems which forced him to retire. But if you look at his more recent results, he's definitely been more consistent, and he's definitely finishing higher up the field. Now, Jos Capito said it is a great headache. He wasn't expecting him to be this sort of high up so soon, and he's sort of surprised of how quickly he's got to grips with the car. So this is a great problem for them to have. So how likely do I think this is to happen? I'd give this an 8 out of 10. I think this is definitely the most likely driver to join next season. We'll have a new rookie on the grid, and I think this is very likely. They probably would have done their business a bit earlier if they weren't holding out to see if you can get these super license points. So I'd give him an 8 out of 10 for likelihood, and I'd give it a 6 out of 10 for sort of driver quality. I think he's an extremely solid driver, but he is a rookie. You've got Albon there for the consistency, but I think this would be a solid driver for the 2023 season. Moving on to the second driver, and it's going to be Mick Schumacher. Now, we know Mick well from his 2 seasons in Formula 1, where he hasn't really lived up to expectation. Some may say he hasn't reached his potential he got in Formula 3 and Formula 2, where he won both of those series at his second attempt. So you could say he's had a better racing record than Sargent, who hasn't won either. But if Williams sort of wanted Mick, why would Haas let him go if they could see this potential? I think they'd sort of be quite happy to let him go, and they clearly haven't signed an extension yet, as I think they're looking at different options, maybe Hulkenberg as a safer pair of hands. So the jury's still out on Mick Schumacher. A lot of people rate him, a lot of people don't. It's hard to say. That Haas has been extremely inconsistent again this season. But one problem with Mick Schumacher that I think Williams would have, as well as Haas, is the amount of crashes he's had. He's obviously had that bad crash in Monaco, he had a bad crash in Saudi Arabia, and he also binned it quite recently in Suzuka when he was coming in after free practice. Now, when you're a team at the bottom and you don't have much money, this is the last thing you need. And as you can see, someone's put together a sort of a table of the Destructors Championship. So this is how much each driver has caused in car damage. You can see Latifi's quite high up there, but Mick Schumacher's like another 1.5 million above Latifi, and Williams really don't want this. You don't want to be wrecking your car every weekend because they aren't hitting the cost cap, so this just takes away from development. Now, Gunter, who we know from Drive to Survive, and he's very familiar on the grid, he's quite sort of a character. He's publicly said Mick needs to stop crashing. He's called it disappointing and frustrating, and he said that he can accept it if he crashes if there has the pace, but he hasn't had the pace either this season, so it's sort of a bit of a trade-off. He's costing the team a lot of money. So comparing Mick Schumacher to Kevin Magnussen, he's definitely a safe set of hands, but he's nowhere near one of the best drivers on the grid. I think you've got to look at the points and their performances. This top one is Kevin Magnussen, and the bottom one is Mick Schumacher and their points they've scored this season. Now, it looks very similar. They both sort of gained a large amount of points in round 10 and 11, but since then haven't gained any, and Mick sort of struggled to gain any at the start of the season. And then just looking at the season comparison, Magnussen's got more points, he's had a higher finish position, a better average grid position, he's had a higher race result, the best result he's got, the highest position, and he's currently higher in the championship. So he's sort of beaten Mick Schumacher in every one of these fields, which is a bit sort of alarming if you're sort of regarding Mick Schumacher as one of these sort of great drivers like a Lando Norris, George Russell, Charles Leclerc. Is that what Williams are going to get, or are they going to get a driver that sort of struggles to match Albon and also is going to cause them a lot in damage? I think this is a big risk for Williams, and I'm not sure if it's one they're willing to take. So likelihood, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. I think if they think Logan Sargent's not ready, or he doesn't get the super license points, I think this will probably be maybe their sort of main driver they go for. And yeah, in terms of sort of level, I think a 7 out of 10. He's definitely got the potential. He's won Formula 3, he's won Formula 2, he's clearly a great driver and has got the potential. Maybe he just hasn't been able to get it from that Haas car, and I'd quite like to see him stick around in Formula 1 and see if he can sort of reach the potential that's been rumoured. Now, the third driver I think Williams could potentially go for is Daniel Ricciardo. Now, this is sort of a slightly bit different. I don't think Daniel Ricciardo necessarily wants to go to Williams. He doesn't seem that keen to be in Formula 1, to be honest. I think he wants to be at a top team. I don't think he wants to be in it for the sake of it. But let's say he wanted a seat and he's going to go for it. It's rumoured that he's currently on a salary of £12 million. Now, he's just had a buyout of McLaren. They had to pay his contract out of 20 odd million. So he's clearly got a lot of money at the moment. So I think he would have to take a massive pay cut, as it is rumoured that both Williams drivers for the previous season, so Albon and Latifi, their combined salary was 2.4 million. So would Ricciardo take a pay cut? I think Albon's on most of that money. So would Ricciardo take a pay cut to sort of 1.52 million? I'm not sure. It depends if he wanted to stay racing. And Williams sort of struggled to match that salary that like a team like McLaren could pay. Now, let's say Ricciardo did decide to take a pay cut. It's still a lot of money for Williams. Yost has come out and saying we are way below the cost cap and we have quite a way to go to get to the limit. So they're clearly not reaching that $145 million cost cap, And let's say a $5 million salary for Ricciardo, that could be used a lot for car development, which would that be a better way of spending your money? Probably. It's a lot of money to spend on a driver's salary, and especially if he can't sort of get that potential or the sort of form he had back at Red Bull or Renault, it's a lot of money to pay a driver. Now, he would bring in a lot of sort of social media, marketing, but I don't know if this is what Williams want. They could probably spend the money getting a better midfield car. So the likelihood of this happening, I'd give it a 3 out of 10. I don't think it's very likely, but this is mostly down to Ricciardo. Zach Brown, who obviously knows Daniel Ricciardo really well, said, "I'm speculating that he doesn't want to drive for a team that's 9th or 10th in the championship," which I understand given his pedigree, but hopefully he'll come back in 2024. Now, is he thinking he can get that Mercedes seat? Maybe, but I think if Daniel takes a year out, he's going to really struggle to get back into Formula 1. Now, in terms of if they could get hold of him, I think the quality of driver is a 9 out of 10. He's a race winner, he's got the talent, he's an incredible driver, and I think everyone in Formula 1 would love to see him stay in the sport. So who do you think is going to be Albon's teammate next season? Is it Mick Schumacher, Ricciardo, maybe Nico Hülkenberg, or Logan Sargent, or someone else? Comment down below if there's someone I might have missed, and who you think could join Albon at Williams for 2023. Now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.